Hey there, this is Todd Waller with Studio Four8 at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Snyder & Company, and I'm here today with my partners, Sarah Maddock and Jeffrey Post. And today we wanted to talk with you about vacant house horror stories. We've seen some things in the period of time that we've been in real estate, and we really don't want our clients or even consumers that are viewing this to run afoul of a vacant home, especially in the wintertime, which we're kind of walking into at this point. And I think Jeffrey's got a great story to start off with, actually.
Well, foul is the operative word in vacant, especially if you're not doing the right thing. And one of the wrong things that was done by a homeowner at one point was to underestimate the power of freezing temperatures and not taking care of winterizing or shutting off the water. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you might hear things like, well, if you leave a slow drip coming out of the faucet, and that's not a fail-safe. No. And it's not a fail-safe when pipes freeze and eventually burst. And when they burst on the second floor and the leak comes all the way down into the first floor and freezes pretty much the entire lower level, you've got kind of a redo gut job happening there. And that actually happened for some clients. And it was awful. It took a long time to turn that around.
I'm sure.
For the small amount of money for winterization, it was a horror story. And it was foul.
Oh, I've seen things like that too. In fact, I had one where it wasn't the pipes bursting, but an ice dam that happened. It got cold, the water started, and then it got warm again. The water started melting and created an ice dam in the ceiling, ruined the kitchen, 2 months off the market. I've also had a horror story at a vacant home that wasn't related to freezing water, but was actually related to an animal that found its way inside.
Oh, yeah.
A raccoon, to be exact. Well, he got inside, couldn't figure out how to get out, destroyed some furniture, made a huge mess, and died in the property, unfortunately. So
foul
talk
again.
about foul.
Yeah, that's
bad
not
news.
good at all.
Bad news.
I haven't run into any horror stories necessarily, but there was a crisis averted with a vacant home a few years ago. We had a power outage right across Thanksgiving weekend, if you will. Like that Wednesday, the power went out, and Thursday, Friday, yours truly is wandering over there to make sure that the sump pump is doing all right. I mean, the good news here is the sump pump never overflowed because Johnny on the spot's, bailing water out of a vacant house. But at the end of the day, winterization is not a bad idea when you're talking about a vacant home into the wintertime. So what's winterization entail? What's the cost? What are we talking about here?
Well, winterization, if you have it done professionally by a plumber, honestly, maybe it's $150. When you come back to the property or you need the water back on, you're going to have to pay that same plumber to de-winterize it. But honestly, just very inexpensive when you're talking about the kind of damage that Jeffrey talked about.
And when you're doing that, too, to a house, you always want to make sure, if the house is being seen, that you put bright notices that say this house or this bathroom has been winterized.
Don't use the toilets, in other words, if the property's been winterized. Other things, if you're going away, even if you're not having your property on the market, but you're just going away for a long amount of time, and a long amount of time means maybe even up to a week, 10 days, consider having a house sitter, really, because so many things can happen, like animals and other issues on vacant properties. It might be worth it to have a house sitter. You also might want to alert your insurance company. If you're thinking about the kinds of tragedies that we're discussing and you didn't let your insurance company know that you weren't on the property, you may not be covered. And yes, it's expensive to have a vacant house insured, but trust me, it'll be worth it if you actually end up needing it.
The rates go up from the normal rate when it's a vacant property. The other thing on winterization to think about is if your house does go under contract and you have an inspection, they're going to want those systems operating for the inspector, so you will have to turn that back on at that point.
Absolutely.
Anyway, just a couple pointers for you going into winter, or if you're leaving your property for any length of time. We've seen things, as Todd said, and we'd love to help you avoid these issues. So, good tips.
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks again.